Roller coasters. You love them. I love them. And what's not to love? Death-defying speed machines that take you to the absolute limit and back. There's some of the most thrilling creations around, and like ice cream, vary in hundreds of different flavors. You got sit down, stand up, inverted, looping, launch, fourth dimensional, wood, and etc. and etc. And every time we think we've seen it all, a new mean machine comes along to blow our brains all over again. Now, I've been fortunate enough in my travels to ride almost 300 of these incredible demons, and in today's adventure, I'm going to rank my top 25. Now, I know for a lot of you, 300 is a grain of sand on a beach, but I feel like I've been on a large portion of some of the greatest coasters known to man that it was worth it to make this list. Also, now before you go apeshit when a coaster you love isn't mentioned, it's most likely because I haven't ridden it yet. But that's enough foreplay. On to the show. I first rode the Incredible Hulk when it opened in 1999, and I am just as floored today as I was when I first rode it. Powerful and intense with wicked forces in the first half that liquefy your brain. This is one of my favorite first halves of a coaster around. That launch and series of inversions until the mid-course is so ludicrously fun that it makes up for the meandering second half. Not that I hate the second half. Far from it. It just lacks the powerful nature of the inversion-heavy opener. I first rode Lightning Run in 2019, and damn what a fun ride this is. With snappy transitions that try to fling you out of your seat and fast-paced blink and it's over speed. It's not the biggest boy on the block, but it's not meant to be. Its stats may be nothing to write home about, but what it sets out to do, it excels in every moment, and that's airtime. Those hills absolutely ripped me out of my seat and had my thighs begging for mercy. It's a shame there aren't more of these small, compact beauties scattered about the country, because like the RMC Raptor, this is a coaster model that small, independent parks should be flooded with. MONTU is one of 3 inverts we're going to see on this list, and the one I need to get back to ride the most. My only rides on it were in 2005 when I was 16, and I've yet to have an opportunity to get back. But boy, what rides they were. That left such an impression on me at a young age that this ride is still in my top 25 after just 2 rides when I was a teenager 17 years ago. The frenetic, low-to-the-ground turns and inversions made this ride so thrilling, and that Batwing is still one of the most intense inversions on the planet. Hopefully the universe can find a weekend for me in 2023 to go experience this and that park once again. First rode Diamondback in 2011 while in town for a wedding. I have family that live in Cincinnati, so Kings Island is always a stop whenever we visited as kids. And returning to this park for the first time as an adult and getting to revisit all the classics and getting rides and all the new stuff with family was one of my favorite experiences at this park, and Diamondback is a big part of getting me back into coaster riding after a break while I was in college. Its smooth, graceful airtime hills have you feeling like a cloud dashing across the sky, and I love B&M first drops. They are so thrilling and feel like you are falling forever. B&M to me are the greatest coaster manufacturers around, and it's because of coasters like Diamondback and its sleek, exhilarating layout why. Twisted Cyclone is one of the smaller RMCs, but don't let the lower stats fool you. This tornado packs one hell of a punch, and like other RMCs does its absolute best to murder you in your seat, and goddamn is it amazing. That first drop in the back just launches you forward, and the wave turn is easily one of my favorite modern elements found on coasters today. The ride may be on the short side, but it still packs a lot into this compact layout. I rode it for the first time last year on a blistering hot day in June, and it was absolutely hauling. Thankfully, the park was empty, and I managed to marathon this to my heart's content. Awful restraints aside, Superman the Ride may have one of the best layouts on a roller coaster in operation today. 2 halves working in perfect synchrony to create something truly world class. The first half featuring powerful airtime hills that showcase its speed and floater airtime, followed by a spaghetti bowl of twisted track in the second half that has you flung every which way but loose as you barrel towards the brake run. It's a wild ride from start to finish that has some of the best pacing I've experienced on a coaster. I just wish the restraints were the T-bars like Millennium Force, because then there'd be no stopping this machine from being truly world class. Mystic Timbers is one of only 2 wooden roller coasters to make this list. I have a very love-hate relationship with wooden coasters, and the large majority of the ones I've gotten to experience left me with nothing but back pain and headaches. Thankfully, Mystic Timbers is nothing like those. It's one of the smoothest and graceful woodies I've ever been on. I couldn't believe how fast this coaster spread through the woods while remaining smooth and graceful. It took each element at a blistering pace, but never once did I have to brace myself for the torment wood usually throws at me. It's truly one of the best woodies on the planet, at least that I've experienced. Invert number 2 to grace this list is Alpengeist, the mother of all inverts. This thing is gargantuan. They really made this ride feel like a runaway ski lift with the absolutely towering height of this coaster. It's insane. It features some huge inversions that feel like you're upside down for decades before flinging you back down to earth. I also love when a ride outside of the big dogs can throw some theming our way, and even if it's bare bones like some fake snow aesthetic in the second half, I still appreciate the effort to make these feel like you're an out-of-control skier way in over his head. The last time I had been to King's Dominion, I rode Volcano and Hypersonic XLC, so you can imagine my elation to be going back in 2018 to get a shot at Twisted Timbers and I-305, which, spoiler alert, I-305 isn't on this list. I know, cry about it. Twisted Timbers was actually the first RMC that I ever got to ride, and I instantly fell in love with their creations. That barrel roll first drop was so unique and insane, and this had some of the most forceful airtime hills that I had ever experienced at that point. They were truly out of this world as they tried to eject me from my seat. I had a smile on my face from ear to ear, and we spent the rest of the day after getting all the credits just getting lap after lap on this stunning creation. The final invert, Banshee. And I know this wouldn't be many people's picks for their favorite invert. I'm sure that would go to MONTU, but I love huge, massive inversions, and this is every invert I love done 2 sizes bigger. It's like Ant-Man took a regular size invert and used Pimtech to make it bigger. The loop, dive loop, and Batwing especially feel like they go on forever, and that slow crawl heartline roll is hang time city. I just love how every element complements each other to create an absurdly fun invert. So Banshee as of now remains my number 1, at least until I get back to Tampa for another go-around on MONTU. Goliath is one of the most picture-perfect B&M hypers around. Its airtime hills pack punch after punch. It has a spectacular first drop and one amazing gray-inducing helix. I was so happy to find over Georgia empty the day I visited, so I could get as many laps on this behemoth as I possibly could. It is truly one of the best hypers around. Wicked Cyclone is loads of fun. It was the second RMC I got to go on, and it blew me away with how much you get out of its compact layout. It truly feels like you're a cyclone barreling down on an unsuspecting town with hairpin drops and insane lateral turns. The low-to-the-ground second half of the ride perfectly complements the hair-raising balls-to-the-walls first half. Its insanity meets slow-burning hang time, and I love every second of it. Storm Chaser is another RMC like Wicked Cyclone, but dialed up another 10 notches. This is an RMC that just jettisons you out of your seat as violently as humanly possible. The airtime hills are some of the most forceful ejector I've ever felt on a ride. I also love how it stays low to the ground, never letting up speed as you take each element at a ridiculous level that leaves you begging for more. It's rides like these that show you don't need to be the biggest or the baddest or the meanest to pack one hell of a fucking punch. Even though it slots in here at number 12, X2 is still the most insane ride I've ever been on. Just called X when I first rode it at the tender age of 14, this ride blew away all expectations of what to expect in a roller coaster. It fucking floored me. That dizzying drop, the insane flips, the Raven turn, it all blends together to create one of the most visceral and spellbinding coasters I've ever been on. I've ridden all sorts of creations in my 33 years on this planet, and this is one of the only coasters that still makes me nervous every time I'm about to ride it. On the other side of that park is Twisted Colossus, my favorite ride at Magic Mountain, and hey, that's me! This is one hell of an RMC. It feels like beating a dead horse at this point talking about just how good this company is at making roller coasters, but with each creation they seem to dial it up a notch and take everything that makes their coasters great and turn it on its head. This is the only Mobius loop creation of theirs as well, so you get to experience both tracks in one go around, which creates one crazy unique experience. The wave turn gives you crazy laterals, and each inversion flings you up and out of your seat, and the fact that you get to take that crazy drop twice is just icing on the cake. Kicking off the top 10 is Millennium Force. One of my favorite things I look for in a coaster, which you will see littered through the top 10, is speed. I can't get enough of fast coasters, so it's no surprise that Millennium Force would reach this high on my list. The first coaster to top 300 feet packs in one insanely fast-paced ride that never lets up off the gas until you're sitting on the brake run. That first overbank turn after the drop has me graying out every single time. It's one of the most fast-paced and enjoyable coasters I've ever been on, and still manages to feel scenic despite its 92 miles per hour speed. Maverick truly feels like the Wild West. It's perfect for its setting in the park, feeling like an out-of-control Western adventure come to life. Those whip-fast transitions and breakneck speed make this one of the finest coasters, not just at Cedar Point, but in the world. And it's a testament to just how good of a company Intamin can be when they're firing on all cylinders. That drop, the launches, the stangle dive, and the crazy inversions all come together to create what is truly the wildest ride in the wilderness. Mako is my favorite B&M hyper on the block. I don't know if it's the lakeside setting, the beautiful theming and picturesque purple track, or the insanely fun layout, but everything comes together to culminate in one truly incredible experience. From the minute you're traversing the queue, you know you're in for something special, and Mako packs in everything you love about B&M hypers. An amazing first drop, glorious airtime hills, quick transitions, and one luscious finale over the lakeside. It's B&M at the top of their game, and a coaster that makes me have to set aside a day for SeaWorld every time I visit Disney World. In that same park is Manta. Everything I said about Mako applies double for Manta. It's my favorite coaster in the park and just a pure spectacle. The queue is incredible as you walk through the darkened hallways of aquatic tanks filled with manta rays. And the coaster packs one hell of a layout with a stunning first drop, an incredibly intense pretzel loop, and one of the best finales on a coaster as you soar over the water and surrounding rockwork like a manta ray coursing through the surf. It's one of the best usages of theming to complement a coaster I've ever seen, and I've been in love with it ever since my first rides back in 2018. El Toro is a coaster I grew up with. I remember riding this opening year and just being blown away at how insane a wooden coaster could possibly be. This ride is absolutely wicked. The first drop and subsequent airtime hills are some of the most insane rapid-fire elements I've ever experienced. And the Rolling Thunder Hill may be the dopest amount of airtime I've ever gotten on a coaster. Seriously, it absolutely shreds you out of your seat. It's insane what this coaster can do, and I just hope it gets itself under control after its turbulent last 2 years, so we can look forward to many, many more years of this absolutely diabolical creation. Leviathan is not a coaster that most people would put in their top 10, but I can't get enough of speed, and this coaster hits all those marks for me. It was my number one after I first rode it, so it tells you how much I love in-your-face, fast-paced coasters. I couldn't get enough of this ride when I went to Canada's Wonderland. The huge towering airtime hills, the drop that goes on for decades, the speed hills, the turnaround. I loved every second of this ride. It was one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had on a coaster. Beautifully smooth, wind blowing your cheeks back fast, and one hell of a ride. Lightning Rod is RMC at their most unique, taking all the elements of their best creations and turning them on their head and adding a launch to the equation. A launch on a wooden coaster. They were thinking wildly out of the box on this one, and God bless them for it. I rode this bad boy back in 2019 on a hot July day, and she was gunning for blood. Blistering pace, this thing had my thighs black and blue by the end of the night. Its speed is insane, and that quad down finale is out of this world with how fast you take it. It also boasts one of the best night rides I've ever gotten on a coaster, taking place out in the woods in complete darkness. This is the total package. Steel Vengeance is our final RMC to make this list, and also their most towering achievement. Take everything RMC are known for and make it the biggest it could possibly be. Break as many records as we can. Let's make the meanest, baddest boy on the block. And by God, did they succeed. Every element feels gargantuan and larger than life, with one insane moment of airtime after another. This was the third RMC I ever rode, and it made any other I was going to get on after that pale in comparison. This ride never lets up from the second you leave the lift hill to the brake run. It's just element after element after element, and just when you think it has to be coming to an end, it hits you with a few more for good measure. Its second half twisting and turning beneath its own massive structure is so thrilling words don't do it justice. Just get yourself to Cedar Point and ride it. Velocicoaster is everything I love about roller coasters. Launches, inversions, hang time, lap bars that let you feel every element you take, and it rolls it all into one complete package by adding some of the most immersive theming you can find on a big scale coaster like this. Theming to me is everything, and it helps sell a coaster before you even set foot in your seat, and Velocicoaster boasts some of the best theming around. With a beautifully lush first half in the Raptor paddock, this is one of the best coasters ever built. The first half is a winding, twisted mess of lateral turns and bunny hills before hitting an insane launch into a wonderful top hat full of hang time. From there, you hit one of the best second halves in a coaster with the single best inversion I've ever experienced, the Mosasaurus roll. It feels like you're literally skimming the water. It's so wild. This is the de facto themed roller coaster, bar none. But there can only be one, and for me, it is Fury 325. It takes everything I love about speed and gives me one of the most balls to the walls, insanely fast-paced experience you can find on a coaster. That first drop is massive and feels like you're falling for days. The speed hills and airtime hills give you insane amounts of both ejector and floater airtime, and that treble clef may be one of the most unique elements on a coaster today. I hope they never put it on anything else and let Fury stand as a towering, unique achievement by B&M. I rode it 35 times when I first experienced it in 2019, and I can't wait to one day get back there and experience it in all its glory again. And that is my list. As you can see, there is still massive amounts of roller coasters I still have to conquer here in the United States, but I think I can safely say that the list comprised here still has some of the biggest and baddest coasters around that have more than earned their status as the best of the best. I can't wait for summer to hit and I can experience some classics again and finally hit some bucket list coasters I've been waiting for. I hit Disney every year, so Tron will be added to the count, as well as SeaWorld's two newest coasters. I hope to finally get to Silver Dollar City this year, as I've been itching for that park for as long as I can remember. I'm also going to Paris and Amsterdam on my honeymoon this year, so I'll be adding Disneyland Paris, Parc Astérique, Walibi Holland, and Efteling this year, so that is super exciting. It's a wonderful time to be a coaster enthusiast, and I can't wait to see what is unveiled next. Anyway, that's all for today. Until next time, adventure on.